All right. Well, we are here with Sheriff Tony Davis. That's right. He's here with us in the flesh this afternoon. It is time to be talking about all the things going on at the Sheriff's Department. And welcome to the show, Sheriff Tony Davis.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, Tony. Here we are almost to the end of January 2013. Of course, you were reelected with no opposing, and so how does it feel to be in that position again?
Well, it feels good. It was good not to have any opposition, which gave me an opportunity to concentrate more on what needs to be done in Greenwood County versus out trying to win votes here and win votes there in politics. So it felt good.
Absolutely. Now, of course, one of the big things that happened last year was the certification of the sheriff's office. And when you were first running for sheriff, that was one of the things you wanted to make happen. And by God, it did.
It did. It was took us about a little over 3 years to get this done. We got accredited by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Association's accreditation.
What does that mean?
That means that we have well over 200 standards that we have to meet, and we have to stay in compliance with each standard. It gives us more professionalism. It gives us a way to investigate this crime, to investigate that crime, and it's the whole set of guidelines, and whole set of policies and procedures. It makes us more accountable, and I hope that it would lift the morale up of the officers to know that they are an accredited agency and bring more professionalism to the sheriff's office.
Now, not every sheriff's office is accredited like this, right, across the state?
No. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but there's two types of accreditation. That's state accreditation and international. I wanted to get the house in order, so we went state accreditation first, and hopefully before my next term in, we can look at international accreditation.
Absolutely. Now, do I remember correctly, is the police department working on accreditation?
The police department is an internationally accredited
Oh,
agency.
okay. Wow, okay. So that makes a big difference and should make a big difference to the people of Greenwood County.
I hope that the people of Greenwood County are proud of their sheriff's office because, although I'm the sheriff, that office belongs to the people of Greenwood County. A lot of times when I'm out, I have a number of people come up to me and tell me they appreciate what our guys do, that they think we're doing a good job. I get phone calls telling me that. I get letters in the mail telling me that. So hopefully we're doing something right, and we're going to continue.
Okay, now I've got to ask, do you ever get any letters that aren't so appreciative? Or telephone calls?
Yeah, once in a blue moon.
Well, I guess that is as much a lesson as far as things you can do as getting the positive all the time, isn't it?
We learn from that. You're not going to always be perfect 100% of the time. Somebody's going to always know more about the law than we do, and going to tell us how to run our job. Whenever you restrict someone's movement or you take their freedom by arresting them, you're going to have people that's going to be upset with you, but my philosophy is treat people like you want to be treated as long as they'll let you. Show a little courtesy and respect, but at the same time, do your job.
Absolutely. Now, of course, there have been some changes in the sheriff's department since, of course, Sonny now is the coroner there, and Angie Woodhurst has gone on to become the clerk of court. Plus, I understand you've had you're moving people around to better, I guess, what shall we say, better serve the community?
I would say, I would call it better serving the community. I did. I moved, I put 2 more people into narcotics investigations, and I put 2 more people into investigations. And these were not newly hired individuals. I did some transferring and moving around. We certainly have a drug problem in Greenwood County, and drugs create most of our problems, most of our crimes. So we're going to attack it that much harder if we can.
Sure. Now, speaking of the narcotics problem, the drug problem here in Greenwood, it seems every day there's pictures in the paper, and we keep seeing more and more. Why do you attribute this? What is happening out there as far as the drug trade here in Greenwood?
The big issue we have now is methamphetamine, and it's very addictive. The recipe on how to make it, you can find it on the internet, or you can get it word of mouth from some of the others. It's very dangerous to make. There's been a number of explosions and people getting burned. I really don't know all the effects that it has on one's body, but if you see a person today who's not using it, and then you see that person 6 months from now and they are using it, you can see a huge difference in their appearance.
It destroys them. It destroys their body.
And I'm looking at it, I see them from the outside, and I'm seeing this appearance. I'm wondering what else is going on the inside of their body with all the chemicals, the various chemicals that they use to put in their system.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you and I were talking at first. You said you used to think marijuana was the worst.
I did.
When you first started in law enforcement.
Back when I was in Vietnam, marijuana became very prevalent over there. And
were you talking the 60s? Is that what you're talking
in the 60s, yes. Tell how old I am. But I saw what it was doing, what I felt it was doing to the American troops over there. And of course, as they were coming home, marijuana became prevalent here. And I thought it was the worst drug out there. Well, that was back in the 60s and in the 70s. Well, in the late 70s, here comes cocaine. Cocaine became epidemic throughout our country. Marijuana didn't go away.
Right.
Shortly, a few years later, came crack. Well, crack really became an epidemic and caused many, many problems. Again, cocaine nor marijuana went away. Well, then as the 2000s approached, methamphetamine became the drug of choice. So that still left us with crack and cocaine and marijuana, which is still on the streets. And not only with the methamphetamine we have now, but we also have prescription pills, and they are being abused every day. Every day we talk with people that are hooked on prescription pills.
So there is so much. I guess it is understandable why we have the thefts. All these things are happening because people just want to get the drugs.
Exactly. They want to support the habit. Now, I left out alcohol. Alcohol is also a drug, and we have quite a few problems from intoxication from alcohol. Whether it be public drunk, whether it be domestic, whether it be DUIs or whatever, we have our share of that too.
Now, what have you seen, Tony, since you first took office to now? How are you feeling? Have they gotten more prevalent, harder to control? What is your feeling as far as the stats and everything from your office?
We're seeing an increase. Basically, I've seen a decrease in the usage of marijuana and crack. Although it's still on the streets, we're not making as many cases. Our guys now seem to concentrate mostly on the methamphetamine. You can be sitting at a red light and look over there beside you, and you don't know what's in the trunk of that car.
Right.
You can go into a motel room, and there they are cooking it. Your next door neighbor could have a meth lab. And like I said, all this stuff is dangerous. And then we're seeing people go to, you can buy so many packages of Sudafed per month. We see these people that have bought their limit, but yet they're still going to pharmacy and being blocked. Well, we began to start charging those people. Now what they're doing is finding people standing in line at a pharmacy or on the outside of a Walmart or a pharmacy somewhere and paying them to go inside and buy the pills for them. So it seems to be never ending.
I know some of the drugstores and everything are actually quitting carrying Sudafed.
I wish all of them would, but if they did that, I'm sure that they'll find another ingredient.
That would work.
There's been talk about scheduling Sudafed, and basically what that means is if you schedule it, you can't go to a drugstore or a pharmacy and buy it. You have to go to a doctor to get a prescription for it, and then you can get it. So, why should a person that really, really needs the drug, let's say an elderly person, why should that person...
Let's say Eller, who's tried to buy Sudafed and has been made to feel horrible,
Yes.
Like, what do you need it for? What's your symptoms and everything? And I'm like, I just wanted to buy a little Sudafed.
Yeah.
I'm stuffed up.
Right, and why should somebody that may need some over-the-counter type drug, why should they have to go to a doctor and pay that doctor's fee just to get a prescription for a cold?
Right.
I don't know if that'll ever pass or not. That's something that we've been talking about at the Sheriff's Association meetings that we attend. We haven't really sat down and as a group decided how we're going to approach that problem.
Absolutely. Well, we are here with Sheriff Tony Davis. Hey, if you've got a question for Tony, give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We are going to be talking some about gun control. We're going to be talking about some gangs. We're going to be talking about a whole lot of issues here that I'm sure you're interested in. So if you've got a question, give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We'll be right back. That's right. We're right back here at Sharp Facets Gallery. We do have Sheriff Tony Davis with us. If you've got a question for Tony, give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Now, I know one of the other things that we had started talking about, you and I, off the air, was, of course, the metals thefts, particularly copper, air conditioners, and, of course, they have passed a law that had to do something with copper metals, but you're still having problems with that.
We're still having problems with it. Thankfully, our recyclers in Greenwood County are abiding by the law. However, last week we did we made charges against and suspended the license of one of our recyclers in Greenwood County. If they happen to open back up, then they would definitely be in violation and we would be down there charging them again, but I don't think they're going to open back up. At least I'm not going to issue them a permit, and you have to get a permit from the sheriff in order to conduct that type of business, so they won't be getting one from me. The law says we shall, as far as the metal permit goes, the law says the sheriff shall issue those permits. However, coming up real soon, there is a new law on it, and coming up real soon. There's going to be a training session at the Sheriff's Association, and one, if not two of my officers will be going down there so we can be abreast of this law and see how we can better maintain or enforce it.
What the law has to do with?
It has to do with copper and
okay.
other non-ferrous metals.
Okay. All right, but you said one of the biggest problems is if somebody has gotten this by bad ways here, not legally, that then of course what happens is they take it out of town.
Right.
And you have no way to track it if it's sold out of town.
There is not a national network or statewide network that says Joe Blow, for example, sold 25 pounds of copper to Joe Blow's a business. We have to, in turn, go to those locations and pull their records and look and see. But then, once that happens, you can't say that this particular copper came out of this particular air conditioner, or this particular metal came out of this particular car. So there's still some bugs to be worked out in the law, but I will say that the state is trying to help us as much as possible on this non-ferrous
Now,
metal
I know
law.
catalytic converters, that was a big one. Is that still, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago where they were getting them at the mall and just ripping them right out of the cars right there. Is that still happening?
Not as often as it was, but we're still having it. One night last week, about 2 o'clock in the morning, a lady heard a noise. She got up and looked out the window, didn't see anything, but the next day she noticed her catalytic converter was gone. So we're still having those.
Still having
But
that
just
type
not
of
as
thing.
often.
Right. And of course now, there are a lot of gold buyers here in Greenwood, and of course they are registered now. So, and I think it's really good that you guys are checking and making sure. It certainly has created a, shall we say, a more honest and open network.
We have also shut a couple of those down. These fly-by-nights that come into Greenwood and open up in a motel room. We have shut a couple of those down also.
Sure, but I do think that it has made it a lot easier and more above board. When you have the right person in here selling, they should be able to sell their stuff.
I agree. I agree. And you know, most people abide by the laws. So there's a handful out there, that 10% out there that don't. I wish more people did, but you know, I wouldn't need as many officers as I have, and I wouldn't need more. I actually could use a little bit more help, but you know, I'm going to make it with what we got and do the best that we can.
You know, up in Ohio, I heard an interesting story here. It's been all over the news here in the last few days about the sheriff up there who's been cut back and cut back. He just really doesn't have much of a force to work with up there. and he has told the citizenry up there, you're going to have to take care of yourselves. Calling 911 isn't going to get somebody there quickly. If you're in dire straits as far as somebody robbing you, you better take matters into your own hands. What do you think about that, Tony?
I can say that I certainly hope it never happens here in Greenwood County. I can see the sheriff's point of view. I think that's when your concealed weapons permit comes into play, and that's when people that have a right to protect themselves and protect their property. If they stay, I don't know what size county they have up there, but if they stay as busy as we do, if they don't have the manpower, if they call 911, it'd be 30 to 45 minutes before someone could respond, and by that time the crook or the thief or the burglar is long gone. He's done his damage and he's long gone. So I believe in a person protecting their property, protecting themselves, and at the same time using a little common sense in doing so.
Absolutely. Now, of course, one of the big things that is happening out there, I have never seen so many people getting concealed weapon permits. That is a process that is going on right here in our county in a big way.
It is. We have several individuals that teach concealed weapons permit, and last week at the Sheriff's Association meeting, the chief of SLED came in and he told us, and I forgot the number, it's something like 150,000 concealed weapon permits. And that may be a low number, but he was talking about the income that getting those permits had generated for the state. I believe in concealed weapons permits. Again, we want guns in the hands of the right people, not the wrong people. And if you get a concealed weapons permit, you got to have a background check. SLED approves your concealed weapons permit. You're fingerprinted, so everything's on file. A lot of these individuals that are causing problems on the street certainly don't have a concealed weapons permit. Their fingerprints may be on file, but it's because of some other crime they've committed. But too many guns are in the wrong hands, and we see it daily out here on the streets, by houses being shot into, by somebody walking down the street and getting shot at. But usually that's a retaliation type thing from something that's happened previously.
Why is that? Why is that happening, though? I mean, Greenwood used to be such a, everybody used to say it's a lovely day in the neighborhood. Now, really, you do have to be concerned about this. You do have to look over your back. What is happening to our society, even in Greenwood, South Carolina?
I don't just think it's in Greenwood. I think it's a nationwide problem. I also think that the drug activity has a lot to do with it. I think sometimes some of these individuals are from homes with one parent, and that lack of discipline in some areas, in some cases. I think the hanging with little gang activity is another, and they also know that if you're a certain age, you can't be charged with an adult crime unless it's serious enough. So they know that they're not going to get the penalty that an adult would get.
So, well, do you feel that the movies and the video games and all these things are influencing society?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
I certainly do, because I don't play video games. I don't have any of that type of electronics that allows you to do so. But I do. I believe the movie industry has a lot to do with it. I believe the games has a lot to do with it. I believe even the music has a lot to do with it, with some of the lyrics and some of the things. I saw down in Clarendon County, there was a rap video made in which two individuals threatened to kill the judge and someone else. Well, they got arrested for making those threats. So I don't know how that case is going to come out, but the sheriff down there in Clarendon County was telling me that they did arrest two individuals for saying what they were going to do to one of the local judges.
Wow. All right. Well, we are here with Sheriff Tony Davis. Hey, if you got a question, give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Having an interesting conversation. Going to get to talking about guns and schools and all that good stuff. So stay right with us. We'll be back right after the news.
Are you a pirate or a pack rat? Do you have a vacation of a lifetime sitting in the attic? Or a college tuition hung on a wall? Or is a fabulous retirement hidden in your jewelry box? Bring those items to Sharp Facets Gallery. We can establish value and buy from you or sell for you. And so ends another chapter at Sharp Facets Gallery, 72 Bypass, and on the web, sharpfacets.com.
Oh, that's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery on the 72 Bypass. We have Sheriff Tony Davis with us here this afternoon. And, of course, we've talked some about what the drugs and everything are doing to our area. And several years ago, we heard that the gangs were coming. How is gang activity, Tony?
Our gang activity has not decreased. I have a gang investigator, and certainly I can't send him out with gang activity going on around him, but what we're trying to do is trying to identify the number of so-called gangs we have in our area and the members of each gang and the hierarchy of each gang. Who's in charge? Who's the one that's got most charisma? Who's the sergeant at arms? Those type of things.
What type of gang activity do we have?
Well, certainly we've got drug.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly we have some shootings and some retaliations for shootings. You got turf wars back and forth. This particular so-called gang controls this area, and if this other so-called gang member comes over there, then he's subject to be shot at or jumped on, and then he'll go back and he'll retaliate, have his guys retaliate. So we have that going on, and it's mostly guys anywhere from 14 to maybe 30. And like I said, the drug activity fuels their little income and their issues.
Are we having gangs coming from outside into the area, or is this pretty much localized gangs?
This is pretty much localized. We've got some of the names. For example, is the Country Boys. Some of the names is the 96 Boys. Some of the Promised Land Boys, Cokesbury Boys. Some are some in the city are known as the South Side, and some are known as the East Side. And I certainly don't want to be naive enough to say that we're not seeing so much of it now, but we may at some time the Hispanics. If you look at it in certain areas where there's a large Hispanic population, there's a lot of gang activity. We're not seeing a lot of it. However, we do see some signs of it that surround town. We haven't seen them committing any particular crimes as a group.
Okay. And so we've got gangs, we've got drugs, and of course we are got just regular old crime, I guess, too. I have noticed there have been, it seems to me, a lot more shootings, whether it was a convenience store the other day and these type of things. We're seeing a lot more of that, and from a business owner's perspective, that's kind of frightening.
I saw when we had an armed robbery at one of our local convenience stores. Inside the city the other day they had a home invasion where a couple of guys came into a house over off of in town there and did a robbery and did some shooting. Then I understand there was a apartment complex. An apartment shot up and a guy was hit. And I think there's another one recently. We had one out at one of the nightclubs where argument out in the parking lot. The crowd, they fight inside. The crowd spills over into the parking lot, arguing, fussing, yelling. The car pulls out the parking lot and starts firing back into the crowd. We have made an arrest on that. We're still looking for one of the suspects, but we have made an arrest on that one. But that's those just type of things that we're having. And again, in my opinion, it all boils down to drug activity.
Drug activity. All right. Well, I know the subject everybody is wanting to talk about, of course, is the automatic, semi-automatic weapons. Should they be banned? Should there be more gun control? And we have the sheriff sitting right here, so I guess I should ask you that question, Tony. What do you think?
I guess you're putting me on the spot.
I guess I kind of am.
I think the military certainly needs automatic weapons, and fully automatic and the three round burst. As far as the citizens on the streets, I don't know why an individual would need an automatic weapon. And if
Well,
they
they're
have
not
one-
legal, are they? I
No,
mean,
they're not.
I can't own a
No.
right,
They're,
okay.
they're not legal. And I don't know why the average citizen would want one or would need one or could actually afford the ammunition for one. Your semi-automatics, if you think about it realistically, you have some rifles that are semi-automatic and you have some pistols that are semi-automatic, which means every time you pull the trigger, the round will fire. I mean, the weapon will fire. Well, you also have some revolvers.
Yeah.
Every time you pull the trigger on those, they'll fire. The semi-automatic may fire a little bit quicker. But, then you have, I don't know exactly how you classify an assault weapon. Would a 30-30 Winchester be an assault weapon? And I don't think they use that in the military as an assault weapon. I think a lot of people use it for hunting and stuff. But, any gun that's in the wrong hands can hurt. Can hurt some
Absolutely.
individual.
But the gun doesn't do it itself.
Right. The Saturday night specials will hurt you just as much as a 40 or 45 caliber expensive weapon. We do. It's not illegal to possess a handgun unless you're a convicted felon or if you're underage or something. And it's according to where you're at. You can have one in your car. It can be in the trunk of your car. It can be in the glove compartment of your car. It can't be laying beside you. It can't be under your seat. You can't be wearing it on you unless you have a concealed weapons permit. You can have a weapon in your front yard. You can have one in your house. You can have one here in your business. But you can't walk down the street with one, again, unless you got a concealed weapons permit. I'm for a concealed weapons permit. I think people all have the right to protect themselves. But to possess a weapon, to possess a firearm, to possess a rifle is not illegal. And what I mean by that is, if you've got illegal drugs in your house and I have probable cause, we can draw up a search warrant, we can come in your house and we can take your drugs and arrest you. If you've got a weapon in your house, I can't draw up a search warrant and come in there and get your pistol, especially when it's legally bought.
Right.
So, yeah, we are having those issues, and with occasionally we'll have some drive-by shootings, occasionally we'll have a house shot up, but again, all that's in retaliation for another incident that occurred. Does it make it right? It certainly does. Do we try to go after the guys who or the ladies who committed those crimes? We certainly do. We have a new prosecutor. I think he's going to take a tough stand on a lot of the crimes, and we're behind him 100%. So let's see where it goes.
Absolutely. Now, as far as I think the big issue for me is the lack of mental health that we use in taking care of our citizenry here in the United States, and whether it's South Carolina or California, we don't seem to be handling that part. And I really think that is where we should be spending some time and money. And how do you deal with it if I've legally bought that weapon and somebody breaks into my house and steals it? And how do you deal with that?
Well, if somebody breaks in your house and steals your weapon, certainly I would say call 911 and let us have a report of it. But I'd also say, don't just give me a report and say, hey, I had a 9mm pistol stolen. I don't know the serial number. I don't know the make and model. I don't know anything about it. Keep your serial numbers. Record your serial number. Record the type of weapon you have. So if it is stolen, we'll have a record of it, and we can put it in the computer that if it shows up in Myrtle Beach, or if it shows up in New York, or if it shows up wherever, it'll kick it out of the computer saying this weapon was stolen in Greenwood, South Carolina, and possibly we can identify suspects.
So that becomes real important, is to have it in have your information in a lockbox or something where you can put your hands on this important information.
It certainly does, and I wouldn't just stop with my weapons. I do my televisions, my computers, my microwaves, my televisions. I think I said televisions, but my DVDs, whatever. Anything
Right.
has a serial number on it, I think I'd record it.
Absolutely. All right, well, we are here with Sheriff Tony Davis. We are going to hear a word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about gun control. What are we doing for our schools? What do you think we should do for our schools? Hey, give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. Oh, that's right. We're right back here at Sharp Facets Gallery. We have Sheriff Tony Davis with us in studio here today. Tell you what, I would like to talk a little bit about, because there's lots of conversation going on across the nation about how to protect our children in school. And I would like to ask you, Tony, what is the plan or what is happening as far as our Greenwood School students?
And if you remember back a number of years ago, Greenwood was one of the first school shootings where we had some
right
children.
over here, yeah.
Right, it's Rice Elementary now, it used to be Oakland. That occurred in the city when I was working at the county at that time, and I went over there and to walk in and see what I saw is, will never leave this little brain of mine. It's like my brain just took a picture of it, and I'll always remember it. You certainly hope that nothing like this ever happens again, anywhere. But this is an issue that we talk about daily. How to prepare in case we have this. If I could read minds, like we talked about before, if I could read minds, I could certainly prevent it. But I don't know that this individual is going to their school to shoot kids or shoot teachers and it doesn't have to be elementary school. This happened at several colleges here lately.
That was the Jamie Wilson
Wilson
case,
right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But if I, like I said, if I could read minds, I could prevent that. But all we can do now, and I'm doing two things, like I said, discussions on a regular basis and training. We have a program we call Active Shooter that we're training. I think they're down at the hospital today, training some hospital personnel on it. But it doesn't have to be at a school. What happens if you're at a college football game?
Sure. With
all those people in the stands? What if you're at a high school football game? What if you're at the mall? So we try to prepare in our Active Shooter training that we do. But as far as the schools go, what I did just a couple of weeks ago, I started this Adopt a School program where I listed all the schools, elementary, even the private schools, the middle school and the high school, and I had the officers sign up that they'd be responsible for this school, that they would go by there on a regular basis. They would go by there in the mornings. They would stop in. They would know the principal. They would know the teachers. They'd get to know some of the kids. They'd have lunch with the kids. They would know the layout of the school in case we did happen to have some type of incident. So that seems to be working pretty good. Our guys are going by the schools. I think it lets the parents feel a little bit more at ease. Mm-hmm. I think it gets the school administrators, principals, teachers, the maintenance staff there. I think they can feel a little bit more at ease. I think visibility is a key deterrent. So we're trying to have more visibility around the schools.
Absolutely. Now, what I know, putting an armed resource officer in all of the schools, that would be pretty expensive.
It would be. I have 6 school resource officers. For example, at Brewer Middle School, mm-hmm. behind it, I believe, is Woodfields. Well, there's one resource officer there. That way he can go to both schools. At Westview and Springfield, although they are not side by side like Brewer and Woodfield is, he has Woodfields. I'm sorry, he has Springfield and he has Westview. Mm-hmm. And then at Northside, and I think behind Northside, I believe is Marywood, and I have an officer up there, and he goes to both schools. Then I have one at Emerald High School, and I have one at Greenwood High, and I have one at Genesis, the alternative school.
So what do you feel, how do you feel about teachers having concealed weapons in the schools? I mean, this is a big topic of discussion all across the nation. I mean, you can't turn on the TV without hearing something about it. What is your opinion, Tony?
I disagree with it.
You disagree?
I really do. If a situation occurred, we as law enforcement officers, we train often with handguns. If a situation occurs,
instinct takes over on your part.
But I'm not going to always say that we hit everything that we shoot at.
Okay.
And we go through training. What's the teacher going to do? Whose job is to teach and not to have a weapon and protect the school? I would love to have school resource officers in every school, but first of all, I don't know where I get the officers, and secondly, trying to get them trained would be another issue. And thirdly, where am I going to get the money to pay for them?
Some people would say we just need to have the money for that.
They're going to take it from somewhere, and we were talking about the mental health industry, mental health department a moment ago. you know, they've taken a lot of money from there, and a lot of these people who needed help a lot of the mental issues we deal with, a lot of them get put right back out on the streets because there's no room and funds have been cut. So, it's a never-ending issue or battle that we deal with on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Well, I know it's something that is, when we think and we send our children off to school and everything, we, of course, have always believed that they were safe.
Mm-hmm.
And until the Sandy Hook, I actually had forgotten about the Jamie Wilson, and I went back and pulled that up on the computer and read the story again, and it just brought that up to one of our national talk show hosts I was talking to, and he goes, I had no idea you had something like that in Greenwood. And that actually was back in, what year was that?
I don't
87 or 97? Back in, I think it was 1987. And that was right here in Greenwood,
mm-hmm.
where was always a lovely day in the neighborhood. Yeah.
You're right, and like I said, you can't predict who it's going to be or when or where. I do think that school officials, teachers, I don't know that they can identify an individual. I mean, I don't know what the characteristics are that causes these people to. Do they all have the same characteristics?
Sure.
I don't know. But I think, your school teachers and administrators and so forth are with these kids 8 hours a day. Maybe a bell sometimes, or a light up sometimes ought to go off as to how this individual is acting. And
Well, then we get into those privacy
We
issues
do.
that you and I were
We do.
talking about. And, if somebody is identified as having mental issues, how do you draw the line between not saying anything or being able to
Right.
say something?
And, if they say something and they happen to be wrong, then what you got? A lawsuit on your hands, We deal with a lot of mental issues through the probate judge's office. Basically, when I say that, a probate order will be issued to pick this individual up and have them examined, and that is part of the sheriff's office responsibility, is to pick them up, take them to the self-emergency room and have them examined, and then if they're committed, and then to somewhere like Patrick Harris or Three Rivers or somewhere, it falls upon us to transport that individual. Personally, I think that should be a medical issue and not a law enforcement issue, because our guys are not trained to deal with the mentally handicapped or mentally challenged, I guess we would say. But still, that's part of the sheriff's department's responsibility. It's an old law that I think needs to be revisited and changed.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're dealing with as far as that goes. I don't know what the answers are going to be. They've got a lot of activity up there in Washington, D.C., going to be introducing a lot of laws and whatnot. So I guess we'll have just to wait and see what comes down the pike.
Well, they are elected to serve, and I'm sure there's some of the brightest minds throughout our country up there, and a lot of experience. So I hope they come up with some very good decisions and the right decisions.
Absolutely. Well, we are almost out of time, Tony. Coming up over the next few months, and any things that are going to be happening in the sheriff's office that we should be aware of?
Well, I'm trying to work on a couple of things right now. What I want to do is create a community action team. And basically what that'll be is two officers that are out on the streets that are very proactive, that are proactive in our high call volume areas. Some of the biggest complaints we get out of neighborhoods is speeding. And so, somewhere I'm going to have to put them because we're getting the complaints out of there. But at the same time, like I said, I also want them in high call volume areas during the times that we have identified as what we call the high call times, I guess.
Sure.
I plan on doing that, and myself and Chief Brooks for the city, we combined our narcotics team, and that's working well. We also combined our SWAT teams, and so that's working. That gives us more manpower in both locations. What he and I have been discussing lately is creating what we would call a major crimes unit, and that would be several officers that would concentrate strictly on your more violent crimes, your murders, your home invasions, your attempted murders, your violent rapes, your kidnappings, your drive-by shootings, you're shooting into a dwelling or shooting into a business. Try to concentrate on some, and also gang activity. Try to concentrate on those things, see if we can better identify who these culprits are, and try to get them off the streets.
Absolutely. You know, I think one of the best things that probably has happened since you became sheriff is that you and the police chief, Gerald Brooks, have been able to work together. That's made a big difference in our community.
Well, we both have the same philosophy, I guess, in law enforcement, and we know that there's no barriers, there's no lines, no concrete wall that keeps the people in the city contained in there and keeps the people from the county from going out. We know that people from the city come out to the county, and when they do, they become part of my responsibility. And the people from the county go into the city, and when they do, they become Chief Brooks's responsibility. We know that. So we try to, and we believe that cooperation and communication is the key to law enforcement and working together. If we don't work together, the citizens lose.
Absolutely. You know, you've been listening to Sheriff Tony Davis right here on WCRS, right here in Greenwood, South Carolina. Tony, thanks so much for coming out and filling us in on some of the gaps. It's been great this afternoon.
Thank you, Ann. Give me a call anytime.
All right, sounds good. That's going to do it for us. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Bye-bye, everybody.